get him. Let's go get him today, man. Let's go. Hey, dominate on 3. 1, 2, 3, dominate.
The 49ers are now facing a mobile-ish quarterback in Dak Prescott. And really, a quote from Jerry Jones himself intrigued me earlier this week. Jones talked about Dak Prescott. He said the secret to beating the 49ers may be with Dak Prescott and his legs, which means we could see some designed runs. We could see some extra action from Prescott that we really haven't seen recently from Prescott in terms of with his mobility. He can extend plays, but we haven't seen the designed plays for Prescott. What do you think that could be a factor? And how do you think the 49ers defend a mobile quarterback like Dak Prescott?
I do think it's a factor. I think that's the one thing that when I look at this game and try to break it down, that's the one thing I don't have an answer for. Because it's not like Dak is super mobile quarterback where you're going to spy him. You're not going to waste a defender on that because at max, you're going to see him run 6-7 times on 40 dropbacks. You know what I mean? So you're not going to waste a spy on that, but those are the ones that kill you the most. As soon as the defense turns their back, it's 3rd and 5. Maybe your defense needs to get off the field. Offense is struggling a little bit. And then all of a sudden you get that backbreaker run to keep the chains moving, keep you on the field. Those are the concerns that I have. And Dak, more than ever, he's looking like young Dak again. Last year, he was completely unwilling to run. And it was obvious. It was the leg injury. And then he had lower extremity injuries that kind of were plagued based off of the leg injury and trying to work his way back. This year, he started out a little bit slow, but if you look at the last month or so of the season, including last week, you'll see 6 rushing attempts, 6 rushing attempts, 7 rushing attempts. He's starting to run the ball more like he did when he was a little bit younger. He's starting to get that confidence in, and it can be the backbreaker, like I said, Russell Wilson style, Patrick Mahomes style. All it takes is a couple of those throughout a game, and it can really flip it on its head. So that's the one thing that I don't have an answer for, and that's the one thing that does concern me about the Dallas Cowboys.
Right, and I think it has the attention of the players for sure. Nick Bosa was asked earlier this week, how does he feel about the 49ers and a mobile quarterback? He understands they gotta play better. He thinks they've played better recently, but again, they overestimated Jarrett Stidham. I wonder, do they overestimate Dak Prescott, given that on film, he doesn't run the football much in terms of designed runs and things like that? And also, how do the 49ers react? Because Dak Prescott, when you look at his splits, he's way better against the blitz than when you rush 4 and you get pressure. He only completes 50% of his passes when he's pressured, but he completes 69% against the blitz. There's a huge disparity of when he's blitzed and pressured than when he's not blitzed and pressured. Prescott, you've got to be able to rush 4 and you've got to be able to get to the quarterback. But again, you've got to maintain him in the pocket while also rushing 4. The 49ers, they had a bad blitz case in a way last week. The Charvarius Ward touchdown to DK Metcalf, that came when the 49ers blitzed 6. They got to be able to get the pressure there if they do blitz. Otherwise, Dak Prescott could have a nice day in the pocket. And that's talking about him in the pocket. We've got to also worry about him as a rusher as well.
Yeah, 100% you do. And that's just it. I mean, the way that you stop a mobile quarterback is you send 5 at him and you fill all the lanes. But you're taking an extra defender off the field as far as the passing game goes, and Dak's good enough to beat you with his arm too. So it's a conundrum that you're in. I don't know how they handle it. I really don't, because Dak, he has his mobility back. He has his legs back. There's a few other things that I think Dallas can do as well that can really cause problems for the 49ers. If I'm Dallas, I'm letting Dak know that he has a green light to run. I'm going up tempo, and I am putting CeeDee Lamb in the slot. You do those 3 things, I think you can cause a lot of problems for this defense. You can definitely put him on a back pedal. You don't allow him to sub out by going up tempo. Dak Prescott kills you with a back-breaking 3rd and 5 run. And CeeDee Lamb, you put him in the slot. Charvarius Ward can't follow him there, because if he does, then you've got a major mismatch on the outside. You got to put Jimmy Ward on the outside on a gallop. That's just not going to happen. So those three things right there,
Right.
if I'm Dallas, that's the keys to my offense. I'm doing those three things, and I'm doing them often.
Yeah, I think that that's important. CeeDee Lamb in the slot. I think we could see CeeDee Lamb utilized like Tyler Lockett's utilized in Seattle. A
Yep.
50% kind of split in the slot and the outside to create those mismatches for sure. And the other thing I want to talk about with Dak Prescott, well, there's a lot to kind of unpack here. Well, Prescott's only been sacked 20 times in the 12 games he's played. Of the 20 times, 6 came in one game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Cowboys have done a fairly good job in protecting him, only 1.6 sacks allowed per game. Meanwhile, the 49ers obviously averaged 2.6 or 2.8 sacks per game over the year. Do you think that that is a matchup to watch? And do you think the 49ers have the favor in that, especially after the way that Abraham Lucas played very well against Nick Bosa this past week?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nick Bosa is always he's always a nightmare. I think if they're going to continue to rush four, they got to get creative with it. They cannot just be wide nine, rush the quarterback. That's not going to work. That's not going to be a way to win this, in my opinion. What I saw was where Nick Bosa was his most effective. One, he got to I think it was Kenneth Walker that ran the ball on this particular play, but he got to Kenneth Walker quick, stopped him for a loss. The other one was on the Amenahu strip sack,
Right.
where Bosa's the one that actually pushed Gino up into the pocket so that Amenahu could get his hands on him. Both of those came off of being creative. Both of those, if I remember correctly, came off of when they moved three defensive linemen to one side,
Mm-hmm.
had one wide out on the other side, and attacked him that way. And I believe through three quarters, they did that twice. They ran one stunt and they ran Nick Bosa, or one stunt with Nick, and they had Nick Bosa one other time line up over the guard on the interior of the line. Only 4 plays they got real creative with Nick. In 2 of those plays, he had a major impact on the result of those plays. You have to get creative. There's no reason to just line up and say, all right, we're better. We got them. Go do your thing. You can do that, but you can still get creative with it. I think D'Amico Ryans, it's on you to get creative and get Nick Bosa in different areas and just give them different eye candy so that you're not just straight pass rushing. You have to do more, be more creative this week than you were last week with those types of lineups when it comes to that front four.
Yeah, I agree. And the creativity, that's where D'Amico Ryans, I think he's going to be challenged. That what do you call it? That formation that you talked about where they have the three and then the one in the wide nine. They've used that with these stunts and it's worked recently with the 49ers. They normally utilize their linebackers as well with Fred Warner, Aziz Al-Shire, or Drake Greenlaw in the formation as well. And it's worked because you get Nick Bosa on the interior. When you get him on the interior, what does that mean? You don't necessarily have the double team or the chip that could come with him on the edge, and that's a valuable thing because you get him on a one-on-one. Now, Bosa obviously has to increase his effectiveness from the pass game, but I don't think that Dallas. It's not that I don't think that Dallas will necessarily let him go, but I think that Nick Bosa should learn from this past game. And I think the 49ers should have a better game plan if Nick Bosa gets chipped. It's not like they had a bad pass rush last week. They still had 16 pressures. Omenahue had 5. Armstead had 3, and each had 3 sacks combined. So it's not like they had a bad pass rush, but now the effectiveness is there, and I think the creativity is going to be important as well. Last thing on
Yeah.
Dak Prescott, the interceptions. 15 and 12 games this year, and that's been a thing. He hasn't had a single stretch where 2 games without an interception this year. How do you think that impacts this game? Do you think the 49ers are able to get one?
Yeah, I do. I think so. I mean, the 49ers, the defense has been very handsy, and they are forcing a lot of turnovers every single game. It seems like multiple turnovers are coming. It's the same thing that happened with that defense down the stretch last year when they started to turn things around. I do. I think they're going to get their hands on one, but I would expect that Dallas gets their hands on one as well. I think, for as good as Purdy has played, I do think that sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, and he's thrown some up in every single game, and for whatever reason, defense hasn't been able to come down with it. I would expect that Dallas comes down with one this game as well.
Yeah, I think that that's a good talk because when we talk about turnover differential, 49ers and Dallas, they're the top two. Dallas has the most fumbles, I believe, this year with 17, and they're one of the leading league leaders in takeaways.
Yep.
When Dak Prescott turns the ball over as much as he does, and the Cowboys are still there in turnover differential, that tells you something. Because the 49ers, the reason they're there is they don't turn the ball over.
Right.
Since Christian McCaffrey arrived, the turnovers with Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy haven't been much, and the 49ers don't fumble the football either that much. And so they create turnovers, but not necessarily at the highest rate like the Cowboys. The difference, though, the 49ers create the second most interceptions in the NFL behind the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Dak Prescott throws a lot of interceptions. So that should be a fun topic when it comes.
Yeah, I mean, turnover wise, I mean, seriously, since the Rams game, which was his first real week, so we're talking an 11-game stretch. I mean, what if they had 2-3 turnovers? Like,
It's been,
not,
I know Purdy himself has 4, but Garoppolo, I don't believe, had any during that stretch.
Garoppolo had 0. Purdy had 4
Since
in
the
that
Rams
stretch.
game, I believe we have 5 because I think we had 1 in the Chargers game. I remember I did a turnover differential article. We had 1 in the Chargers game, and then we've had the 4 from Purdy, 1 in the Dolphins, Buccaneers, didn't have 1 in Seattle, and then 1 in the Vegas game and the Commanders game.
Oh, that's right. He did in the Commanders game. Okay. All right. But either way, I mean, what 5 turnovers in 11 games?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not even half the games you're turning the ball over in. I mean, that's impressive, very impressive. So I do think this is the game where they get one though. And that's the thing is I just don't, if Dallas gets one, they're just getting one. I could see a scenario where 49ers pull off a couple potentially.
The 49ers have not committed multiple turnovers in a game since they faced the Kansas City Chiefs in week 7. They have
That's
not.
wild.
They have not. Dallas certainly has. Dallas is a team that commits a good amount of turnovers. I don't think they had a single one in this past game
No.
against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but against the who do you call them? The Commanders in Week 18, they had 2, and I know they had 3 in the week before against the Titans. And now that I'm looking at it, Dallas has committed a turnover in every game except for the Tampa Bay one. They committed every game since Week 12 to Week 18.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you go
and
even
it's coming
further,
from all different directions. I think their special teams had a turnover in that Commander game as well.
Yeah. And that's important to note.